back into The Drive, brought to you in part by Brewer Redemption Center and the North Brewer Shopping Center. Brewer Redemption is clean, organized, and offers excellent parking. 391 North Main Street in Brewer. Also brought to you by Chase's Restaurant and Hideaway Lounge, where good food and great fun meet. Chase's Family Restaurant, 1575 Hammond Street in Bangor. It's time now to head over to the Trade Winds Hotline, and we are joined by John Cassidy. He is a rally driver, the New England Forest Rally coming up this weekend in the mountains of western Maine over by the New Hampshire border. So, John, welcome into the show. My first question, kind of a two-parter. How long have you been involved in doing this directly? And then if you could just explain the difference between a rally and a traditional car race to the people out there listening that might not know the difference.
Sure. Thanks so much, Mark and Ernie, for having me on. I've been, my first rally was 1999, and that was at the Maine Forest Rally, as it was called then. And, this is the 31st edition of the event and, our 23rd. So, been a long time in the sport, and, rally racing, is, different than many forms of racing in that we race down closed roads as fast as we can go. And these roads, easy to explain to fellow Mainers because these roads are essentially like camp roads or logging roads. And so everybody knows what it's like to drive to camp. Well, we drive to camp as fast as we can go. And those roads are closed, and we go down one car at a time. At the end of the whole event, the fastest, the lowest time or the fastest car is the winner.
How long are these courses, and then just describe what kind of cars are used in this particular endeavor?
Well, this event coming up has got about 400 miles total of driving that we do. 112 of those miles are what we call special stages or race stages. So we do that 112 miles over 2 days, and those stages vary in length from 5 miles to 15 miles long. We've raced stages up to 30 or 40 miles, which is a very long, as you can imagine. You can imagine racing from Bangor to Ellsworth as fast as you can go down a dirt road, and that's a long time. The cars that we use are varied, and actually we have Subarus and we have Mitsubishis and Volkswagens and BMWs and all sorts of different cars. The cars are generally stock mostly, except for the top teams, and those cars are reinforced. Obviously, lots of safety equipment to keep us safe if we bounce off the scenery. And but other than reinforcing the car and making them reliable, it's generally very close to the car that you might drive down the street.
What's the comfort level for the drivers?
It's an interesting sport in that we don't do a lot of practice, most of us. It takes quite a few events to kind of get used to the car control that we do. We deal a lot with sliding and oversteer, and there is no runoff area. There's no. Last year we raced up Mount Washington in New Hampshire. That's a very technical, dangerous course, and so we have a co-driver that sits next to us. In my case, it's my son. And that co-driver, we have an intercom system, and the co-driver is reading notes that describe the road. So it allows us to go faster, as fast as we can go. For instance, we might be coming up to a hill that I can't see over, and he might say it's flat over this crest, which means I'm not to lift my foot. I keep it flat on the floor, and we go flat over the crest. And if he's wrong, then we're in trouble. And if I'm not listening, then we're in trouble. So it's a real team sport.
So you're going down logging roads as fast as you can. You're going over the crest, sometimes flooring it. Is wildlife ever an issue here? Because I know when you're driving the backwoods of Maine, you might have a deer, a bear, a moose wander out onto the road. Or do you think they hear the car coming and know to stay away?
It's not always, wildlife is a factor. In fact, Ken Block hit a deer at a recent event that was a big accident, obviously, for the deer, but also damaged his car quite significantly. And you can imagine going that fast. These cars are sometimes the top cars are made out of composite material, carbon fiber, and other things with their body panels, and so a hit like that is really tough. So yeah, we've had cows on a stage before in Canada that we've had to avoid. Some places have deer, turkey, almost anything that you see driving around Maine, you can see on the stage. So it's you just kind of have to react when you get there and hope you don't have an accident.
So what made you find out about this and think, man, that's a good idea, I got to get behind the wheel?
Yeah, most people would say I'm a little crazy. I was watching back when we had Speed Vision on TV. I was watching one late night, and a random show that was tucked in there was the Maine Forest Rally, and there was a fella that was winning the rally, and turned out that he was from Maine, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, that these cars were sideways and they were jumping in the air, and they were racing at night, and they were racing in all conditions. And I said, I think I should do that. I don't know why, but I did. And so I sold a couple of things and bought a Honda at the time, and we built it into a rally car and raced that for a little bit. And then we moved to Subaru, and we've been with Subarus ever since.
Talking with John Cassidy. By the way, John, you said you're a native Maine. Where are you from?
I'm right from Bangor.
Okay. And he's a forest rally racer, a rally racer in general. And this weekend, he will be part of the New England Forest Rally being held on the back roads and logging roads of Western Maine. The event's going to be based at Sunday River, the ski area. You mentioned the stages that you run, 112 miles out of the 400. You need some time to fix what breaks during the 112 miles. Can you describe how that's fit into the event?
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of this is it's a huge team effort. These events are not. This is a pretty gladiatorial sport, as you can imagine. We punish these cars pretty hard, and when we bring them back to the service crew, they are never surprised at the damage they see. But there are services interspersed between the stages, so as a driver, I have to be mindful to take care of the car, and I need to finish the event to do well. But breaking things is part of the process. So the service crew is really the gang that keeps everything on the road and keeps us going. And sometimes those services are about 20 minutes. It's not a lot of time to check the fluids and assess any damage and replace parts, and they have to be right on it, usually in the heat, sometimes at night, rain, snow, and they really are the unsung heroes and make it all happen.
Yeah, it's a pit crew, basically, right? I mean, how many guys? Yeah. How many guys are there in your pit crew?
So we have 6 people with us this year. We have a lot of folks that have been with us for a long time, and once they start coming to rallies, they can't really stop. There's no other automotive sport quite like it, or sport in general. So they kind of get hooked as well, and they fix us up and push us back out into the woods and hope that we come back when we're supposed to come back. And generally speaking, they don't like us. If we're going to break something, they'd rather us break something in a big way, not because we're going slow. They want us to go fast, because it's the whole point that we're there, and we work really hard to build the car here on our own and push as hard as we can. It's always a balance between it's an endurance event, but it's also interspersed with these sprints, these stages, and it's really hard to keep that up over a couple of days.
Now, this has to be part or one event in some sort of series or organization, because you just don't do this one time a year.
No, well, we do right now, just because the financial realities of the sport are pretty extreme, and the time off from work. The championship is 9 events that runs coast to coast here in the U.S. And so yeah, it's a national series. There's also a national series in Canada, and there's also a World Rally Championship that happens really in the rest of the world. So it's a big series, and but for us to leave the driveway is not insignificant in terms of time and cost and everything else. So this is a big push for us right now.
So how many competitors, cars, do you expect in this race this weekend?
So this race, I think the entry list is about 67 teams right now, and we've got folks like Travis Pastrana and Ken Block and Brandon Semenek, who's a Red Bull BMX rider, or I should say mountain bike rider. And these are guys that are driving essentially factory cars.
Yeah.
So is driving a Hyundai from Europe. And then Travis and Brandon are racing for Subaru US, which is a factory team based out of Burlington, Vermont. And so there's some pretty high-powered machine, high tech, and but 67, it's a lot of folks when you factor that into a small town like Bethel. There's at least 4 or 6 people on a team, multiplied by 67 entries, and just a lot of great economic impact for the area, that's for sure.
And this isn't time trial racing. This is, you guys are out there at the same time pretty much, right? We
go one at a time down the road, because the roads are, generally speaking, as you know, dirt logging roads, so they're not very wide. The goal is not to be passing on stage. It happens. Some people break their cars or something happens. They have to slow. We actually there's a computer system, GPS enabled satellite system that will notify the car ahead and behind when a car is approaching. So if someone's catching us on a stage, we'll get a little display on our dash on our computer that will say cars approaching. Because with the dust and the noise and everything else, we can't see them. It's kind of like desert racing. And so that way we know that there's somebody back there and we can pull over and let them by, and vice versa. If we're catching somebody, it'll send a signal out to the car ahead. So it's gotten very high tech and adds a level of safety, which is great for everybody.
So we're going to wrap up here in a second, but I'm fascinated. I want to keep coming with questions on this. You said your son is your navigator, and he's got the notes on the road. So obviously you do a practice run. And what does this year's course look like? Have you done that practice run yet? Just talk about what goes into that.
Yeah, we'll do, it's called reconnaissance, or recce for short, is the French term. And we'll do that on Thursday, and that's about a 15-hour day in the car, and which is exhausting mentally. And so we're driving at fairly slow speeds, and we write our own notes to describe the road, and everybody has their own technique to do that. And then that night, the co-driver, my son in this case, will kind of clean up the notes and make sure everything's good for the next day. And so we have the full day of reconnaissance, which is 15 hours, and then Friday, Saturday racing. And by the time we're done Sunday morning, we're pretty sore and tired and done. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah. The New England Forest Rally, July 15th and 16th, based at Sunny River in Bethel area. Is this something spectators can get something out of?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's autograph sessions. There's also a spectator guide that's on NewEnglandForestRally.com. There's spectator buses that are available with tickets to purchase that will take you out on the stages, so you don't have to find your way. There's a VIP bus. I'm not sure if there are still tickets available for that, but that's usually almost like a tour with experienced racers that kind of tell you what's going on. So there's plenty of ways to get out there, and bring your bug spray and an umbrella and a face mask for the dust, and have a great time. But definitely, if you come to the race, look us up, and we'd love to see you, get you in the car, have a seat, see what it's all about.
Well, John Cassidy, one of the rally drivers at the New England Forest Rally, coming up this weekend, like Ernie said, based in Bethel, the Sunday River area. John, I got to thank you for coming on the show today. I'm certainly wiser for it, having not been familiar with this ahead of time, but it's just yet another one of those cool sporting events here in the state of Maine.
Absolutely. We hope to see you out there.
Is any of this still on television? You mentioned Speed Vision back in the 90s. That was kind of a blast from the past, but is any of this televised anywhere?
This is currently, I don't believe that there's a syndicated show right now. There is some online media done by a company called Dirtfish. And so there's a lot of info out there on the internet, and even live broadcast from the event. So people can find that on Facebook and Instagram and so forth, all the social media outlets.
Well, John, thanks again for coming on today. And, if you beat Travis Pastrana this weekend, maybe we'll have you back on to talk about your victory.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. Take care.
All right, we got to take a break right now. Coming up next segment, more Town of the Year. We head down to Jonesport. Nick Look standing by to join us next.
Your